No, Colleen. No one boarded you on a train of disaster and expect you to crash. You're the human train wreck that canceled yourself with your unfathomable disregard for others. You did that on your own. Again, as with all of your whiny, self-centered videos. Oh, my loyal fans, thank you so much for using pillars to hold me up, to support me while I make disastrous decisions for myself. Now, that might be quite pathological with you, and no one is against you getting the professional help that it seems you so desperately need. A lot of us out here are in treatment. A lot of us out here take medications and do dialectical behavior training and need a lot of supports because we were groomed, we were abused, we were traumatized, we were neglected, we were abandoned when we told our story. A lot of us can relate to the victims, the people you made into victims of your disgusting and reprehensible behavior. Yes, you are a loser. You are the biggest loser right now because you used your charisma. You used your influence and your power to manipulate minors and young adults into working for you for free. You tried to sabotage them when they spoke out. If there is a definition of evil, you are that. But no one, as far as I understand, nobody that's actually come out and said anything, wish you the worst possible fate. And yes, you might have received those threats, but none of us support that. The victims don't support it. I don't support it. And other victims of other kinds of abuses and traumas where they have been victimized want that. From what I understand, most people like me on the outside of this, who's not directly involved in this, want you to get serious psychotherapy and psychiatric care and rehabilitation. You know why? Because they once respected you, they once loved you, they once cared about you. And your betrayal, your disgusting behavior, your backstabbing, your insults, your pity parties, your crybaby nonsense, all of that stuff, infantilizing yourself, hiding by a veneer of, oh, I was ignorant of the situation, I was just a loser. No, you're a groomer. You preyed upon the kindness, care, and vulnerability of some of your more vulnerable and targeted fans. That's what you did. Your whole career was based on this. People held you up. If it weren't for those children, if it weren't for those young fans, you would have nothing. You would have absolutely nothing without them. Your way of gratitude is virtually stabbing them in the back and then trying to manipulate your other side of your fans who still want to follow you, which I don't know why, but I'm not going to blame them if they're minors and young people because they are impressionable. still love you and still want to follow you. And yet, the example that you have set is nothing short of being a wolf in sheep's clothing. You are a dangerous human being. You are a toxic human being. You are the very definition of a toxic train running over people through your whole life. Whatever good, whatever you contributed that might have had any semblance of empathy and care and greatness and goodness is overshadowed by the fact that you absolutely refuse, adamantly refuse to take full and real accountability. Again, I will reiterate, you need serious psychological intervention, help, medication, rehabilitation, whatever. And you would have to be honest with your therapist and your psychiatrist and treatment teams to be able to get that help. In my own situation, I have been with the same therapist for several years now, and the same with my psychiatrist. I am lucky. I am very fortunate that my healthcare team respects me and they will care for me, even though I have a personality disorder, mood disorder, emotional dysregulation, PTSD, agoraphobia, you fucking name it. With treatment, with care, I went from being completely reactive and relying on my primitive responses to things for the most part, to being completely in disordered thinking, to being able to taking accountability for myself, taking on more responsibility, and people asking my opinion about things. And I'm making more decisions step by step. Of course, I've never used children in the way that you have. I've never done that. No inclination. No inclination. You have a certain set of boundaries. Those boundaries are nobody is to hurt you, nobody is to challenge you. Obviously and naturally, nobody is to jeopardize the well-being and safety of your children. Nobody wants that. Nobody sane, nobody with an ounce of empathy and care on this platform, including myself, would ever want that. None of us want that because we don't want what happened to us to happen to them. But you have your own boundaries. You know exactly. To say that you did not have any boundaries, that is a lie. Or it's untrue if you don't recognize. Untrue that you don't recognize it. I think you're lying. You have made those boundaries clear. You can railroad people. You can railroad minors. You can have your stands. Whether you told your stands to do it or just allowed them to attack people and threaten people without you saying anything. You mentioned nothing of that. Nothing. Even in the most extreme situation that you're in, you could have had the fucking decency to tell people, to tell your stands, to knock it off. Because, Colleen, you are not worth that. You are not worth people giving up their lives for. Their safety, their trust, their creativity. How have you recompensed the young people who worked for you? Nothing. You have made that money off of them. You. Excuse me. Of course, you would have been against YouTube's children's video policies, because that would have meant that you couldn't do what you do. You would actually have to be accountable and entertaining in a certain way, maybe with adults. Your materials, to me, it's not PG-13. Because personally, I have not seen a PG-13 movie where the main character of it has done the type of things that you have done. It's a different story. You are you as that character. Miranda's you. That's the extension of you. You can't separate that from yourself. You even said it in an interview on a nationally syndicated program, that Miranda is the person who can get away with saying things that you can't, and doing things that you can't, I might add. And you think that you were shielded by that. I think you hate children. You hate other people's children. Like I said, you don't mind railroading their lives. You don't mind using your so-called creativity and your power to overstep your boundaries and manipulating them. But you have clear boundaries of who can address you. And not speaking out against people threatening your victims makes it very clear that you live in an ivory tower with a different set of rules. And your shitty attitude, and your disgusting behavior, and your disgusting selfishness and greed. You should be ashamed of yourself for posting that hideous and disgusting mockery of humanity, of people's pain and suffering, so that you can save yourself. Do you understand how triggering that is? You probably know it, because I think you're a fucking sadist. You are an angry, vengeful, hateful, perverse human being. That is my opinion. I don't know personally why YouTube would want to keep you afloat at this point, would keep you with the way that you've groomed people and the way that you continue to abuse, the way that you have failed to intervene in the threats against the people who dare speak out against you. So we go back to the topic of boundaries, right? You don't have any for anybody else. You don't respect anybody else's. You will do what it takes to bring others down who speak against you. You are dangerous. Why you are still platformed, I don't know. I personally have not reported anything to YouTube. YouTube won't even look at it. They'll probably laugh at me. But I can ask for it in this video, that they should review the circumstances, because you will continue to hurt people. If you had taken any level of authentic accountability for your actions, okay, you might have might have a little bit of self-respect. You do deserve something. You deserve to be in treatment. You deserve to have psychiatric care and health care for your obvious problems. You have a broken character that has to be fixed. But personally, I don't think that you should be performing for minors. I don't think you should be interacting with other minors because you do pose a danger on them. Neglecting their rights and well-being, involving them in very adult things. That's not just being a loser. That's being a groomer. That's being a pervert. And yes, those words hurt. They're horrible. They have severe implications. But you can't blame that on any of us reacting to your behavior. You can't blame your victims for that. You only have yourself to blame for that. You would have provided what people are looking for, what is needed to make your situation. And I think what you are going to do at this point is that you're just going to go after people's throats, so to speak. And when I say that, I think you would be especially litigious in this kind of situation. Instead of offering some money or offering a way for your victims to have therapy. I don't know, whatever I can't say what the victims need. But you should be held financially accountable as well as being socially accountable and criminally accountable if that applies. Yes, I wish there was some type of inquiry about this one way or the other, because you're not the only person doing this crap. You're not the only person. You're not the only person who has done things to malign people and young adults and minors. And there's just not enough done about it because people don't value children's human rights or young adults' human rights. People still continue to victim blame. Every parent that still runs and supports to you should be ashamed of themselves. If you had any decency, you would stop that. But you are hanging on to that support because that's essentially what you have left. I didn't think this would come. I didn't think this day would come. But if anybody has canceled anybody, you've canceled yourself. And you did it in such an extraordinary way. You really shown the world what a despicable human being that you are. I'm done.